This is Jumping In, the short form series of the Jedburgh podcast. I'm the creator and host, Fran Racioppi. Each week I have the opportunity to speak with transformative leaders, visionaries, drivers of change, those dedicated to winning no matter the challenge. Our long form series has been an opportunity to go deep, unpack all aspects of our guest and their story. For Jumping In, just like our Jedburgh teams of World War II, I want to get on and off the drop zone fast. I want to catch up with previous guests, give my opinion on what's happening in the world, and uncover some of today's most pressing issues. The entire Jedburgh podcast is sponsored by Jersey Mike Subs. Together, we share the mission of giving back and building community together. A percentage of all proceeds is dedicated to the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. Check out our website for full transcriptions of every episode at jedburghpodcast.com. Follow us on social media at Jedburgh Podcast on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Subscribe to us wherever you listen to your podcast and watch our full video versions on YouTube. How you prepare today determines success tomorrow. You called the decision a gut punch. Why?
Oh, it was brutal. And so here's the thing, just as you know, we spent literally 2 decades more building it and it's not just me, think about the hundreds and even thousands of people involved in building that brand and all of that created. And then of course, millions of consumers. And all of a sudden, a small group of business people decide that shouldn't be around anymore. Well, that doesn't mean the market opportunity disappeared. It doesn't mean the appetite for that product disappeared. And it certainly doesn't mean that the supply chain that really depended on that business disappeared.
Seth Goldman is a serial entrepreneur. He spent 24 years building Honest Tea from an idea to a leading global beverage. Over the last few years, he launched Eat the Change and Plant Burger. He's also the chairman of the board at Beyond Meat. Seth spent his entire career providing us healthy and environmentally friendly choices in what we eat. Seth and I first spoke on episode 26 last year when we covered his journey from college student to social impact. We also talked about his book telling the Honest Tea story, Mission in a Bottle. But on May 23rd, Coca-Cola announced they were discontinuing the brand, citing supply chain and COVID-19 impacts, a decision that generated passionate response not only from Seth, but from a very loyal consumer base. For this episode, I asked Seth to jump in with me to discuss Coke's decision and what he learned from building a brand that changed the way we drink tea. We also covered the rapid growth of Plant Burger and the recent Jedburgh team lunch at the Boston location. Plus, I pulled out the variety pack of Eat the Change's mushroom jerky and carrot juice to get his opinion on which one to try first. Oh, and if you saw the news, Seth's not done with tea yet. He's fighting back to refill the hole the loss of Honest Tea will create in the market as he just announced the launch of Just Iced Tea, coming soon to a store near you. Take a listen on your favorite podcast platforms. Watch the full video version of our conversation on YouTube. Subscribe to us and follow at Jedburgh Podcast on all social media. Check out our website, jedburghpodcast.com. Learn more about Eat the Change and Plant Burger at Eat the Change and Plant Burger, PLNT Burger.com, and on all social media at Eat the Change and at PLNT Burger. Seth, welcome to Jumping In. Welcome back to the Jedburgh podcast.
Great to be back with you, Fran.
So many things going on in your world. I've been,
just
a few. Since we had episode 26, which I was looking at the date, that was September 16th of last year. So I can't believe it's almost been a year.
Yeah.
And we've actually come this far. But Plant Burger. So we've gone from Plant Burger to Planet Burger, back to Plant Burger. That is scaling, and you just opened the 12th store here in New York. I want to talk about that. Eat the Change is growing. Honest Tea was shuttered and discontinued by Coca-Cola, which was the base of our entire episode that we did, was how you grew Honest Tea, which continues to be one of our best episodes, by the way. And you're punching back and have launched Just Iced Tea. So I want to get into that. There's so much to cover.
Talk about jumping in.
Exactly. Well, we jump in with a lot of kit, like it's not like we can just jump in slick. We have everything on us. So, but let's start with Plant Burger. All right. I went there with the team finally after all this time. I've been trying to go. You have so graciously invited me now to 2 of the grand openings in New York City, and both of them, for whatever reason, I couldn't get to. My goal is to cover live eventually one of these openings.
We'll get you there. Yeah.
You've grown to 12. We went up in Boston the other day. We posted some pictures on social media. We're going to put a ton into this episode of our visit there. I had the bacon mushroom burger, absolutely phenomenal. Can you talk about the growth of Plant Burger over the last year?
Yeah, it's been really exciting to see. The business is certainly accelerating, and what we've done in the past year has stood up 2 standalone restaurants. So 10 of the restaurants are located inside of Whole Foods, which is a great way to grow, but it's probably a little more capital efficient, right? Because we're not having to build a building or do even a build out. We just sort of put on some new decor and it's inside of a Whole Foods. But in Union Square and then on Broadway in Nomad, we've put our own storefront on it. And so it's a bigger investment, it's a bigger bet, but it seems to be getting a great response. Both of those stores are top two performing stores, along with actually the store up in Boston that you went to. And we're seeing really nice expansion of obviously the audience. And of course, the store on Broadway gets just tons of walk-in traffic. So, our goal has always been, we talk about democratizing these offerings, not to make them available. Of course, we love the existing base we have, but we want to make them expandable and accessible to people who are literally just walking down the street and saying, "Hey, I want a burger. Oh, here's a place." Maybe they know it's plant-based, maybe they don't, and that's fine with us. We really do want to make these available. So it's a great test and actually a great proof point now, because we're seeing the results that we can take this beyond just the natural channel or just that healthy consumer. And I know you've heard me say more than once, I love healthy and wealthy, consumers, but that's not the goal of the businesses I run. It's to democratize these offerings so that we can make more people healthy.
I actually, in full transparency, and I tell you, we went to Boston. We rolled deep with our Jedburgh podcast shirts on when we went in there, and we filmed everything. Not only the whole experience, but then also we bought Honest Tea too. So we were drinking that. So you'll see it. But actually, I mean, I think, and I want to ask you about what's differentiating these experiences from the normal fast casual burger place.
Sure.
But I'll say that it tastes better. I mean, it really does. And
that's nice to hear.
And I did not think also that, because you brought it up, that the price point was that deep. I thought it was very on par with the other fast casual burger places. I mean, we go to McDonald's. I mean, that's not great. That we should compare McDonald's or anything, but McDonald's is like $14-15 now too for a value meal.
Huh. Yeah, that's certainly the idea, is that a consumer can move between these without feeling like they're making a choice. I mean, it's great when someone does recognize the environmental impact and the health benefits of what we're doing, but we do want it to be as accessible as literally just crossing the street or just choosing making a different choice. And so, you've heard me talk before, we really are focused on, we've got to replicate the occasion. We can't try to ask someone to stretch too far in their behavior, at least initially. And once we get them, we can continue to evolve that behavior. But we've got to make these products taste great, be price accessible, and fun too, right? I'm curious what you thought of the decor, but we certainly include environmental messages, but we don't want to sound preachy or try to give someone a lecture. They've got to enjoy the experience as much as they would enjoy walking into a burger joint and just having a delicious burger and fries and shake.
No, I think it's more fun. I'll give you that, and it fit well in the Whole Foods. Tomorrow I'm going down to New York City because I have a couple of meetings, and I fully intend to stop by the two locations that are in the city.
Love it.
I also saw you added chicken or form of chicken.
Right, a chicken alternative. Yeah, yeah, and that's once again different people crave different foods at different times, and we want to be able to satisfy their hungers, with the right solution.
Let's talk about Honest Tea. I know I'm gonna quote you here in a second, but May 23rd, Coca-Cola announced they were discontinuing Honest Tea by the end of the year. They're citing supply chain issues. They're saying that the effort's going to go into Gold Peak and Peace Tea. You built this brand from nothing. You wrote a book about it. It's called Mission in a Bottle. Amazing book. I read it before we spoke last time. Episode 26, we talked all about it and told this story. You called the decision a gut punch.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, it was brutal. And so here's the thing, just as we spent literally 2 decades more building it and it's not just me. Think about the hundreds and even thousands of people involved in building that brand, and all of that created, and then of course millions of consumers, and all of a sudden just a small group of business people decide that shouldn't be around anymore. Well, it doesn't mean the market opportunity disappeared. It doesn't mean the appetite for that product disappeared. And it certainly doesn't mean that the supply chain that really depended on that business disappeared. And so that was a gut punch to think how much we gave to it. And the folks who took it hardest, actually, I think, aside from some very impassioned consumers who I heard from, but I actually think
they were all over
social
hardest. Media. Like the public outcry was wild.
But I was so touched. My three sons and my wife, but my sons especially, just felt like, this was our fourth brother. We all kind of raised this brand together. And who are these folks to decide this shouldn't be around anymore? So it was a upsetting development. But what's interesting about it, so May 23rd, as you said, is when I actually posted a LinkedIn post. And by the way, when I made that post, that's when most of the supply chain found out about it. They didn't find out about it from Coca-Cola.
Oh,
they
really?
found out about, so that was kind of an interesting aspect to it. But by June 6th, we made the decision to re-enter the business. Mm-hmm. And so I'm talking to you today on August 8th. A week from today, on August 15th, we're going to be at the bottling plant making the first pilot run of the product. So talk about jumping in. We have it's a very fast scale up and, decision point, label design, formulation, and launch of a brand. But that's how we have to respond, because we know the market opportunity is there. And although it's true, Coca-Cola will stop, I guess, before the end of the year, we've already heard from some distributors who are eager to get the product into their system because they're worried there won't be a supply.
And it's going to be called Just Iced Tea. And you've put a lot out there about the name and why are we using the word just. And there's a number of things that we could name here about how you define just. But can you explain why it's so important to use that term?
Absolutely. Sure. So one of the things we always wanted to do with Honest and now with Just Iced Tea is make sure we communicate what the taste expectation is. So for us, Just Iced Tea says you're going to be tasting just the tea, and then also the sweetness level. We talk about it as just sweet enough. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, it's the sourcing of the product. So we have made a commitment in this line that all the core ingredients, the tea and the sweeteners, will be fair trade certified. And the reason that's important is because these are two of the least expensive commodities in the world, tea and then the sweetener. And so it's our point of view that we have the chance and frankly, the obligation to be able to invest back into these communities while we source from them. So we're paying wages that meet an international labor organization standard. And then we're making sure there's no child or prison labor involved. And then a portion of the sales from every product we buy goes back to the community where they get to reinvest, whether it's in schools or healthcare or their own economic infrastructure to help them develop and become economically self-sufficient. And so for us, that's kind of the rounded way to think about what a Just Iced Tea is. And I also want to say, although I hope it's clear, we don't profess to be solving all the world's problems with this tea, but we think to the farmers and the supply chain and to the environment, it's important to have this mindset.
There was an interesting fact that I had no idea about until I read about your concept behind Just, and you use the term side, like pesticide, herbicide, insecticide, and the fact that the root word side means to kill. But I did not know that tea is actually not washed or cleaned until it goes into the production process.
It's a wild aspect of it, but it's one of the few produce items that isn't rinsed along the way. So if chemicals are sprayed on tea leaves, and of course in a non-organic setting, it's safe to assume, like a lot of plants, they're going to be sprayed. So those chemicals, the only time they get rinsed off is when you pour hot water on the leaves, and what ends up what you're drinking. So from our point of view, choosing organic is an important way to avoid all of those compounds. And look, the science will say, or the regulators will say, well, these pesticides and herbicides are not harmful at diluted levels. But what happens is, while it may be diluted in a particular tea bush, in the environment, they get concentrated. They get concentrated in the water table. They get concentrated in the soil. They get concentrated in our bodies. And so our point of view is that the fewer of those we put in our bodies, the less concentrated and the better. But what happens is now you can literally, in just a regular city in America, if you take the spinal fluid of an infant, you'll find residues of these compounds. So they absolutely have penetrated our lives.
Wow, scary. I had no idea about that, and now it makes me nervous. Everything seems to be making me nervous these days because we're actually having our third in October.
Well, that's one of the reasons that so many people do switch to organic. We always found the biggest catalyst to choosing organic was getting pregnant and having kids, and so that is a big motivator for a lot of people to choose organic.
Yeah, we do that with the milk for my son. He's 2 now.
Yeah,
everything
that's
is
right.
And we never did that, but we did it with a little bit with my daughter. But now even more so, she's 12, so it's really evolved over the last 10 years. You quoted Dr. Seuss when you announced this decision by Coca-Cola, and you said, "quote Don't cry." This is Dr. Seuss says, "Don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened." And then you went on to say, "I'll always be proud and gratified that I was able to be part of a brand that for 24 years represented an effort to shift America's diet and shopping habits in a healthier direction." What is the lesson? And you and I, when we spoke last time, is one of honestly the best lessons of entrepreneurism that you could ever have, coming from the book and our conversation. I've gone back and listened to it a couple of times, and just the how-to book of how do you build a business. What's the lesson as you look back on Honest Tea that you take away?
Yeah, it really is that there's no downside to acting on the things you believe in. So, of course, I wish Honest Tea was still around, but I have no regrets. All the sacrifice, all the intention we brought to that brand lives on. It really does. And it's been so inspiring to hear from literally thousands of people now who have reached out since this news to say how much Honest Tea inspired them or how much they appreciated these efforts. And of course, it will live on in Just Ice, but it'll also live on in all the other entrepreneurs who've been inspired by it, all the consumers who connected with it. And so for me, as disappointing as this particular incident is, the fact that I can still feel good about Honest Tea makes me all the more motivated to go build Just Ice, because it's like, I know it's the right thing to do. I know the communities really appreciate and depend on it, and I care deeply about these communities. I mean, I've not just spent time there. My son is taught in the schools in India where we source from. I mean, we're very connected to them and to their futures, and so I'll never regret making those decisions. Another really important lesson, and I think this is when all your listeners can identify with, is that there is such a thing as karma in business. And so, as I said, when I released the news of this, I heard back not just from so many of everything from like the label company to the bottle supplier to the tea grower to the production facility and of course to the salespeople, but I even heard back from some of the I've been at this now for 24 years, so some of the sons and children of the workers of the people I worked with before now are involved in the business, and they were like, "I'm so excited to be able to carry on the legacy my father started by continuing to work in this thing I believe in." And to me, that's karma. And so I hope there's no guarantee it's going to work out from a financial perspective, but I have every belief that from the intention and from the karma perspective, there's no downside.
Well, we talk about integrity, and you and I talked about integrity last time. And I think at the end, I gave you integrity as one of the nine characteristic of special operations forces that you exemplified through our conversation. I mean, you do what's right. If you do what's right when nobody's looking, the rest will work out. And even if it doesn't, at least you can look back and know in your heart, I did everything I could, and I feel good about that decision.
And it's so true in startups, because especially with startups, cash is tight. And so it could have been easy, or I don't know, to not pay a customer we were only going to work with once, or to not, to just do the wrong thing. And every time we had that choice, I'd like to think we did the right thing. And so now it comes back as, well, these are the benefits of doing it the right way.
Yeah, I agree. I got one more thing to ask you here, because I got a package here in the mail that I ordered the other day. Okay, and I'm trying to figure out which of these should I try first. So I got the assortment of the mushroom jerky.
Thank you.
Okay, because we talked about it last time.
Yeah.
I didn't have a chance to have it before we spoke, but I have them now. And so I'm trying to figure out, what do you recommend I start with? Because this is not an easy decision.
Yeah. I would go with the sea salt and cracked pepper. Our top seller is the teriyaki ginger.
Oh, the teriyaki
but
ginger.
I'm partial to the sea salt and pepper. Yeah.
The Hickory Smokehouse.
The other thing you got to try are our carrot snacks. We've just launched those. The kid. Yes, you got them. Good. Okay, good.
Right here.
And next month we're launching or this month later, an adult carrot chew. So same concept, but with more adult taste. So we keep innovating over here.
Yeah, I just got them the other day. So my son was trying to go through the box last night, and I was like, stop.
Awesome.
I have to ask about those first. Then you can destroy them.
I want to hear what he
I'll
thinks.
send you a note.
It's yummy?
Yeah.
Mmm. Moonbeam. Yeah.
Well, Seth, as always, it's a pleasure to sit down and talk to you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your perspective. What you're doing with PLNT Burger, with Just Iced Tea, what you did with Honest Tea. It's a lesson in entrepreneurism. It's a lesson that our listeners and myself take to heart every single day. I love watching the journey. I see it every day on all the social media. We're aiding it as much as we can and whenever we can to push it.
I appreciate it so much.
And I look forward to continuing the conversation and catching up with you again soon.
Thank you, Fran. Look forward. Next time we'll share a bottle of Just Iced Tea.
Oh, that'd be great. And a PLNT Burger. American Jedburghs went out to form the foundation of the United States Special Forces and the Special Activities Director to the Central Intelligence Agency. Thanks for listening to the Jedburgh Podcast. I'm your creator and host, Fran Racioppi. Join us next week for a new episode on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube for full episodes, highlights, and other behind-the-scenes content. If you like what you heard, give us a like and leave a review. Follow me, Fran Racioppi, Talent War Group, and our sponsor Jersey Mike Subs on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Send your comments and inquiries to media@talentwargroup.com. As former members of Special Operations Forces, the Jedburgh Podcast and Talent War Group contribute a percentage of all profits to the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, supporting the families of our fallen warriors. Thanks for joining us on this episode. How you prepare today determines success tomorrow.